Yes.
Wow. So thanks to lockdown and Daphne, who was excellent, and me, who was helpful, you got.
It was not like that.
You are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. In this tutorial, actually it's an interview, we're going to be talking with Vinod, who recently got the grades he wanted and will soon be going to Canada. So welcome to the podcast, Vinod. You're welcome. So can you tell us, you're taking the test for immigration reasons, is that right?
Yes, that's true. I am applying for a Canadian PR. That's why I want to get 8777 score in IELTS.
Gotcha. Okay, so you needed, did you say you needed 4 sevens? Is that right?
8777. Listening 8, rest of them 7s.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. And how long have you been preparing for this exam, Vinod?
For the last 3 months, and this COVID-19, it gave a little bit more time so that I can focus more on my weaker side. That was my writing, and I contacted you regarding my writing, and it all went well after that.
Excellent. All right. And so you've been preparing for 3 months. COVID-19 kind of, did you say it worked in your favor?
Yes, because I got a better chance to spend more hours. If it was a regular day, I can spend at most 1 or 2 hours at most a day. But during that time, I was able to put more like 6 to 8 hours a day. So it helped.
Wow, amazing. And were you working from home? Is that why you had the extra time?
That time it was completely locked down, and we were not functioning. It was a pharmaceutical industry, so in our case there was no work from home. It was all paid leaves during that month.
Interesting. And so you utilized this time to focus entirely on your IELTS preparation.
Yes, that's true.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, so normally you are a pharmacist, is that right? Like an over-the-counter pharmacist, or is it just the pharmaceutical industry you're working in? Like
I'm
research.
I'm working in pharmaceutical industry, analytical research and development.
Right.
I did my PhD in chemistry, so I am more kind of a scientist.
Beautiful. Wow. That's very interesting. And you will be applying to go to Canada on, I guess, the skilled visa program. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Right. And whereabouts in Canada do you want to go?
Right now, I don't have any preferences. So once I get that Canadian PR, then I will plan accordingly.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So what happened? Did your immigration advisor tell you that you needed to take the IELTS exam?
Yes.
Right. And can you talk us through your journey? Like, how did you start your preparation?
So from the beginning, I started working on Cambridge books 7 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
On my first attempt, I got listening 8.5, reading 6.5, but I know reading was okay. Speaking 7.5, that was okay, but writing 6, that was the one thing I worried most.
Right. So just to summarize, you bought a load of practice test books, worked through those books, took the test, and got the grades that you just mentioned. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. I see. Wow. Well done for 8.5 in listening. That's fantastic, Vinod.
Thank you.
And you said you were worried about the writing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How were you preparing for the writing before?
Earlier, I have a structure at that time, so I was writing through the structure, but I was getting similar score like 6. And when I asked some other, like asked to review my friends or some advisor, they are saying it is above 7 or 7.5, but in the real exam it is equal to 6.
Ouch. Ouch, that's not good, is it?
Yes.
that's pretty bad. Wow. So this must have been very disappointing.
Yeah, yes, that's true. And at some point, I thought like it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But after joining with you guys, I realized it's gonna work because I believed in the process actually.
Excellent. And when you got your so you've taken the exam a few times, and each time you thought you was going to get a 7 in the writing, and you ended up with a 6 or a lower than 7 grade.
Yes, that's true.
Right. I see. And in the meantime, you were still practicing for the listening, the reading, and the speaking. Is that right?
Yes.
Gotcha. And you just kept doing practice tests?
Yes, I planned it like one day if it is listening, the other day it's going to be reading. And I try to work at least write an essay or a letter every day.
Interesting. Good. Yes, I said in other podcasts that the winning strategy is the one which is going to be a routine, it's going to be a habit, it's going to be structured, it's going to be organized and scheduled, and this way it's much easier to move forward. So with your reading and your listening, I guess you were doing practice tests, is that right?
Yes.
Did you have any strategy for those practice tests that you could possibly share with us?
Yeah. The first thing is concentration, because it's difficult to concentrate over a period of time. So I try to focus only smaller amounts of time, like only first 10 questions. I don't care about 11 to 40. Once I go to 11 to 20, I concentrate only on that portion. In addition to that, the best thing work in my favor is whenever I do one test, I try to get 39 or 40 in each test. If it needed like 6 to 7 times, I do that test. At the same time, I write down all the synonyms that were in the test, because text and audio are not going to have the same vocabulary. So I try to copy at least 20 to 25 synonyms from each test. So I ended up around 80 to 90 per 4 tests. So there were plenty of synonyms. And in the final exam, it's kind of replication of those synonyms.
Wow, that is a very thorough strategy. So let me just repeat it for the audience, and just to check that we've got it right. So you do a practice test, and you might do the same practice test 4 or 5 times until you get 39 out of 40 minimum. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Interesting. And each time you do this practice test, you are researching synonyms and looking for the synonyms in the test and possible synonyms that you could use in your answer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Because once we do 3 to 4 tests, after that they are going to be same synonyms repeating in each and every test. So we don't have to look for some other. So it's kind of a replication most of the time.
Wow. Very, very complete preparation. And this is the strategy you used for your listening. Did you use a similar strategy for your reading?
Reading, I was not that much worried, and I didn't do plenty of practice, because whenever after my first test, I got 6.5. I got it for a bit of time. I worked hardly for the first 10 days. Then I got the rhythm, and the other thing I can say that changing is I stopped studying the paragraph in the beginning. I start questions, then I find the answer in the paragraph, so that it saved me additional couple of minutes each time.
Wow. So you just went straight to the questions and then looked in the paragraph.
Yes, find the keywords and look for those keywords in the paragraph.
Look for those keywords or synonyms of those keywords. Is that right?
Yes, that's true. Exactly.
Very interesting. So you tried with a few different strategies until you found one that brought you or that got you your higher score. Is that right?
Yes, most of the time I thought the major impact is how much concentration we are putting in each module rather than a new kind of technique. That's the concentration. I thought like it's the major thing in each and every session. It's not the strategy that we are going to implement. It's the concentration we are going to put in the exam. That's major compared to the strategies.
Very interesting. And how did you improve your concentration levels?
I listen to podcasts, sometimes do yoga or do meditation so that I can at least focus on a bit of time like 10 to 15 minutes or sometimes it may be lesser. I'm not mastered it, but it worked at least it was enough practice for me to pass the exam.
Very interesting. Yeah, I also meditate, Vinod, and I can say to the listeners that when I meditate, I can focus on tasks so much easier. And if I don't focus, then my mind is jumping all over the place. I'm thinking about breakfast. I'm thinking about what my brother said to me yesterday. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do at the weekend. Whereas if I meditate, I can block everything out. For example, if I meditate in the morning, I can work for 4 or 5 hours and I can just block everything out and I can get some real progress done. How often do you meditate, Vinod?
Every morning, maybe 10 to 15 minutes at most.
Me too. And it just makes everything, just makes the day smoother. So you found this to be a big factor for your concentration levels while you were doing the practice exams. Yeah, very interesting. So much more important for you. It was so much more important for you that it exceeded looking at strategies. You didn't need to look. It wasn't so much the strategies. It was more the concentration and focus level. Is that right? Beautiful, beautiful. Now, a lot of students will be listening and I think, okay, I've got to go and meditate. This is a perfectly logical thought. Or, now I'm not going to pay any attention to strategies. I'm just going to meditate. That's also logical. But I think the true essence here, the true lesson is you have to find what works for you. You know, for some students, they cannot meditate. For some students, looking at the text first and then looking at the question works. You have to find the best strategy by testing different strategies and then finding which gets the best results for you. Sorry.
Yes, and it's also like keeping the balance. It's not like I don't follow any strategies. I'm following strategies, but I kept more focus on concentrating on what I'm doing.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So you use this for your, obviously for your listening, for your reading, and would you say concentration helped you in the speaking?
Speaking, actually I can't say my concentration worked because it was so spontaneous. All the times when I go into the room, I know like I have to do well, but I don't know how those 10 to 15 minutes are going to spend. Like it was like just a fraction of a second. By the time I get out of the room, I realize like, oh, is it this much fast? And sometimes most of the answers, those are not prepared. They were like spontaneous.
Interesting. Were you nervous?
A little bit, that's true. But whenever I go to exam hall, the only one thing I tell to myself is like I get n number of attempts. I don't have to worry. So that's gonna relieve my stress a little bit. But anyway, there is going to be some exam pressure.
I see. Can you say that again, Vinod? Uh,
Yes. I didn't worry too much about passing or fail in the exam because I know like I can take 100 attempts if it needs to take to pass me the exam because that's not only one time in my lifetime. So
ah,
that's how I feel like once I go into the run, I feel like this is not end of the world. You have another chance if needed, but try to do your best on the day, on the topic. That's it.
very healthy, very healthy. So just to summarize, you went in there quite relaxed and you took the stress off yourself by reminding yourself that you can always take the test again if necessary.
That's exactly true.
Very interesting. And also, you found that spontaneous answers, obviously, well, when you went in with that mindset, you are more likely to give spontaneous answers, which is what the examiner wants.
I planned a lot actually. I tried to put some structures. I planned a lot like writing, but
Yeah.
it didn't pan out as much I planned in speaking. It's too much spontaneous and there was something happening in the room. So it's just like fraction of seconds. All those 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow. Very interesting. And what were you, even though you said you were preparing for the speaking and it didn't help you that much, the preparation, because it was all spontaneous, even so, what preparation did you do, Vinod?
I got these Cambridge books. So what I did was I asked my wife to ask me a question like in a actual exam. So I would reply in actual examination manner. That's one of the way. And I got some feedback from you guys. So I use those strategies such as using conditional structures, if, but, even though, although, some grammatical structures, those kind of things.
Wow. Okay, good, good. Um, do you remember if you used those in your speaking test?
Yes, I use.
Ah, super. And you used them in a spontaneous fashion too?
For the 2 minutes, I planned it like an essay, so I know like exactly what I want to say for each
Yeah.
one.
Uh,
So I try to use the structure as much as possible, but most of the part, it's not like too much planned activity.
mm, very interesting. Good, good. Yeah. Vinod, I think when you said you used the structure and you planned it like an essay, is that the stuff we covered in the course and in the classes?
Yes, earlier I was answering all the four bullet points within 30 to 35 seconds. After follow up that, I was trying to come up with some story. But Daphne in her uh, review, she said like, don't go very fast. Use each question and spend at least 20 to 30 seconds. So by the time I answer all my four questions, I'm going to use most of the time.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Very, very interesting. So just to summarize, um, you had the cue card, you had those four bullet points, you spent around 20 to 30 seconds on each bullet point, and did you say you added a anecdote, a story? Did you have time to?
For the reason why, as you mentioned, I said like, okay, I have two reasons. Firstly, secondly, in this
Yeah.
fashion, I try to cover.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Did you find that the structure helped you a little bit, or was it restrictive?
I believe it helped me because earlier I tried to fill something to spend my time. Right now, I was not worried about time because I was running out of time each and every time. By the time I stop my cue card, it's already 2.5 to 3 minutes. So in this way, my job is to cover four bullet points at least in 2 minutes. It doesn't mean that I have to complete it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Very interesting. Very interesting. And let's move on to the writing now. For the writing, you were following our online course. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Right, I see. And it was Daphne who was giving you feedback on your essay, or was it Ellen?
It was Daphne.
Daphne, gotcha. And you also joined a few online classes with me, didn't you?
Yes, we did
Yeah.
a few online classes.
Uh-huh. Were those helpful, Vinod? What did you think of those classes?
Those classes were helpful, and one more thing, Daphne was excellent actually.
Okay, so I get helpful and Daphne gets excellent.
You are kind of more generalized for all of us. It's not like you don't know what kind of mistakes I do in my essay. So whatever your suggestions you are giving, it is kind of more structural based. You are letting me know, okay,
Yeah.
this is the way you need to follow it. But
Yeah.
Daphne was there holding my hand and telling me like, no, you don't have to do this mistake. You have to write it in this way. She
Uh-huh.
was actually tailor-made for my mistakes.
Of course, yeah. I was just kidding. I was just kidding there because, yeah, Vinod joined the online classes we were doing while there was lockdown, and there's between like I don't know 10, 15, sometimes about 19 students on the call, and so we had to sort of like do a class that was suitable for everybody, whereas Daphne actually got to see the essays Vinod was submitting, and she dived in there and she gave advice about this mistake, about that mistake, about doing this well, about doing this structure, whereas our classes were mainly focused on essay structure, a little bit of mindset, but mainly like essay structure and question development, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Vinod?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. It was quite good fun, actually. We would divide the class up and then give them an essay question, and then divide the group up into teams, and then we would together develop each paragraph and give each other feedback, and I would ask the class for ideas for the paragraph, to start the paragraph and to organize the paragraph around. And it was, I thought it was good fun. Did you enjoyed them as well, didn't you, Vinod?
Yes, I did. And one more very important takeaway from the class. I was always trying to write the introduction, P1, P2, and conclusion. But from our coaching, I thought like it was not necessary to write introduction or start with introduction. We planned our P1, P2s, then conclusion, introduction. So in the final exam, actually I wrote P1, P2, introduction and conclusion. That's how I managed, because it's computer-based test. I can write it in the fashion I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, this is so true. This is what we covered a lot. This is what we have in the online course, but
Yes.
in the classes, we were doing it each lesson, and yeah, we would have a sample question, and we would just dive straight into P1 and P2, and then later come back and think about introductions and conclusions. And and I think it really helps just doing this with question after question after question, because you start to automate the process and it becomes much, much more straightforward. So Vinod, what happened on exam day when you had your writing test? You did it computer-based, is that right?
Yes. I thought that I'm going to overrun the time, but it was good. It was after listening and reading as usual, but that was the first time I was writing the computer-based test, and I thought like I didn't go into pass that exam because of the pressure. And one more major thing, writing a paper-based test and computer-based test, they are completely different. So we should have the mindset of writing a computer-based test. Even though I was prepared, it was, I don't say it's difficult, but it is different than computer-based test.
Yes, totally agree there. Totally. So what does a student who is used to doing the pen and paper test, what do they need to know if they're going to do the computer test?
they have to practice each and everything on the computer. And one more thing, whenever they are writing ideas for P1 and P2, they have, okay, at least I prepared in such a way, I'm going to write my P1 and P2 ideas even in the essay itself. So when I write my actual essay, I'm going to use them in the process rather than wasting additional time to write this P1 and P2 again.
I see. So let me just summarize. So you directly, you look at the question and then you directly start writing your P1 and your P2, your ideas. Is that right?
Yes, on the computer itself rather than on the additional paper they gave us.
Gotcha. And then once you've finished your body paragraphs, then you start with the introduction and then finish with the conclusion. Is that right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Whereas when it's pen and paper, you probably need to do a lot of planning first and then start writing the introduction and then get on to body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2.
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. Did you... would you say it sounds like it is easier on the computer?
Yes, it's very easy on computer in terms of writing because you can write and you can edit as the way you want. That's one of the major advantages. Actually, first few minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes, I misunderstood the question and I wrote it in some other fashion. Then I realized and I thought like, okay, hold on, wait for a second. Then I read the question properly, and then I replanned again, and everything went well after that.
Wow. Yeah, I remember actually in the classes that we would read the question, then reread it. And even then, when we were generating ideas, sometimes the whole class would be off topic and maybe a student would realize, or maybe I would realize, and we would have to go back and scrap some ideas and start again. So, yeah, this is really important when you're doing your test, just to keep checking the P1s correspond with your essay question, with the task response. Interesting. So it's very fortunate that you actually caught that mini mistake. Would you agree?
Yes. Otherwise, I would have completely wrote a different essay.
Yeah. And it's surprising when I correct essays. It's surprising how many essays I receive which are about a different subject to the actual question. For example, I get an essay about coal and fossil fuels, and the essay might write about, or the student might write about electric cars, which is almost related but not exactly related. And this is going to have a negative impact on your task response score. So, Vinod, what scores did you finally get for your IELTS exam?
I got 8.5 for listening.
Beautiful.
8 for reading.
Wow.
7.5 for writing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was good actually. And 7 for speaking.
Wow. So you jumped. Did you say you got a 6 for the writing in the first one? In your first test?
Yes.
Wow. So thanks to lockdown and Daphne, who was excellent, and me, who was helpful, you got...
It was not like that. Both of you guys helped me in different ways, but all together we made it as a team.
Yeah, totally, yeah. I'm just pulling your leg now, but yeah. So together, we got you to 7.5 in the writing, which a whole 1.5 jump. And it's not just Daphne, not just me, not just the online course. Vinod, obviously, if you were listening to this podcast tentative, if you were listening to it fully, you'll have realized that he utilized the time that he had from lockdown and put in a lot of work into this to get those amazing grades. So we just need to bear that in mind. But those are fantastic scores. Vinod, well done.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, last question. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about joining the online course?
I would highly recommend it, mainly for two reasons. Firstly, as I mentioned, you are going to give overview, the structures, and what are the patterns we need to follow. So it allows us or gives a chance to write a good essay, but in order to correct ourselves, somebody needs to pinpoint each and every single mistake. So that's what definitely it's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I would definitely recommend somebody to take this writing course, mainly because it is tailor made for each and every person. And outside, it is there are plenty of coaching centers where they tell you how to write, but we never know what are our mistakes.
Yeah, this is so true. This is so true. And getting that personalized feedback is perhaps the fastest way to improve. And when you combine this with getting some expert tutorials and a system to follow that routinely and automatically produces coherent essays, then you become unstoppable, just like Vinod. So thank you very much, Vinod. And when are you planning to go to Canada?
It's still a long way. Right now, I'm in my application process.
Right, I see. Wow. Well done again. And we wish you all the best for the future. And yeah, good luck.
Thank you, Ben. And say my regards to Daphne as well.
I will do.
Thanks for listening to IELTSpodcast.com.